Hi, guys. I just wanted to quickly talk to you about a new resource that I just made and talk about opinion writing. As I'm sure you probably know, third grade and up can have an ECR or extended constructed response on either informational writing, it's either going to be an informational writing or it is going to be an argumentative writing. So, most of what I have created and been talking about is mostly informational writing. Most of what TEA has released is also mostly informational. I'm going to make an inference here that most likely my opinion is that it will be informational, but there is a chance that it could be argumentative. So, therefore, I am going to teach my fourth graders, as I do every year, how to write argumentative or opinion writing essays. Okay. So, the example that TEA gave, the only example that I could find, was in the scoring guide when they are talking about it's one article that compares nonfiction, that compares and contrasts two different boats. And throughout the article, it talks about the pros and cons of each of those boats. At the end of the article, the question is, which boat changed life in the US more? Was it the clipper ship or was it the steamboat? And the student has to go through the passage, and first they have to state their opinion, which boat changed life in the US more. And then they have to back that up with reasons and evidence, and they have to explain their evidence, and it has to have an introduction and a conclusion. So you can read these actual student samples, and I've done other videos about that scoring guide. So that scoring guide is the one that I believe it is third to fifth grade. And that's the one that the TEA released. So you can see examples in there of actual fifth grade students and what they wrote on from a 0 to a 5, which doubled would be 0 to 10. And you can read the rationale for why they got that score. And what I noticed when I looked at that scoring guide is that it mainly, in that example, it was a compare contrast, but it was one passage, it was nonfiction. So when people started asking me, can you write argumentative question prompts? I had to really think about it because you're either going to write that question on an article that compares and contrasts two things, which if you go back and look at all of the release star passage, there really aren't any that follow that pattern that I could find. They might exist, but I couldn't find any. And the other way that we teach argumentative in fourth grade in my district is we use debates, and you might do the same. So we give the students a debate that is, in a magazine or maybe an online subscription that you have. We use Storyworks, and Storyworks has a whole section of debates. So we would read the debate, and it will have two sides of the debate. So let's say, for example, the one that I did, the hands-on revising resource was called "Do Manners Matter?" So one side of the debate was manners matter. They show respect. The reasons were they showed respect. Another reason the author gave was it keeps you healthy. And the third reason was that manners can make you successful. And then it gave evidence and facts to justify all of those reasons. So if I was going to write my essay, which my students did last week, on manners, I can decide which side I'm going to choose. And if I'm choosing the side for manners, then those are the reasons I would use. And then I would quote the text or paraphrase, and then I would explain my opinion on that. Some students in my class chose the other side, which was manners are maddening and they're a waste of time and they're annoying. And the reasons for that, I don't remember all of them off the top of my head, but they were basically, more things are important in the world. There's wars going on and things like that. So manners, take time away from where you could be focusing on those important things. And they had some other reasons. So basically, a debate lends itself really well to argumentative writing because the students are presented with two sides of an argument and they have to choose and make an opinion about which side they agree with. And then they have to back that up with evidence. So the only other situation I can imagine besides debates is if they are given a nonfiction passage that talks about two different things, and they ask the students, you need to choose which side you agree with. Maybe it's two nouns like two boats. It could be two animals. I could see them doing a compare contrast with a frog and a toad, and then you're choosing which one. I don't know. I could also see them doing a fiction and asking which character showed a specific character trait and then having the students back that up with evidence. Other than that, I'm trying to rack my brain and think of what other articles or passages would lend themselves to opinion writing, because they can't just be any nonfiction passage and it can't just be any fiction passage. You can't just make an argumentative question prompt for any passage. So, what I did when I created this resource, and I'm just going to quickly flip through it, I did make digital versions of the planners that's included in this resource. And also, I included the digital version of all of the questions so that you can link those directly to Google Classroom or whatever you use. And the essay is already on a Google Doc, so they can type on the second page, they can type out their essay. And I just found that Google Docs works better with spelling assistance and things like that. So that's why I use Google Docs. Okay, so this is a really basic planner that is great for third grade. It's also great for some of your lower level fourth graders and special needs. Even a student up to eighth grade could use this type of planner if it helps them. And so with this one, they would restate an answer, but they would add in that opinion. They would give their evidence. This is kind of like their reasons and their evidence kind of weaved in together. And then they would explain it and then they would sum it up. And then I like to use this planner this is the one that I used with my students last week. And this is the one that is included in the hands-on revising resource as well. So it's color coded so that the students are going to, and I kind of created this planner. I kind of combined races with Oreo, which is another strategy that you can find on the internet for writing argumentative text. So they're basically restating and answering the question. They're giving their opinion. And then they are, what I noticed from the scoring guide, and I added this, even though it's a little higher level, is if they can, I want them to summarize their reasons. And I always tell them to go back and do that last instead of at the beginning. So they can kind of just put the red and then they can leave the pink until the very end. But then I tell them to do the pink reason number one. So let's say they're writing about manners. That would be because they keep you healthy. So they could either write the word healthy or they could write a sentence. Manners keep you healthy, whatever, depending on their ability. Then the evidence, they're going to copy a sentence from the passage that has to do with their proof for how it is healthy. And they can either copy the sentence or they can paraphrase it. And then the E is probably the hardest thing for students to do. This is where they have to explain what does this evidence mean? How does it answer the question? How does it prove their opinion? So let's say they wrote healthy for why you should have manners. And then they wrote the sentence that they copied from the passage was that the text says that you should cover your mouth when you're coughing to not make other people sick. So then for your explain, that's going to come from your brain, it's not something that's in the passage. So you could say, I think, or I know, or this means, or this proves. So I would just, let's say I decided to say, I think that when you are not sneezing on people, that keeps everyone from spreading germs. Everyone should cover their mouth. So you're kind of commenting on the evidence without, in the thing that students always do in the beginning, at least in my class, is they kind of repeat what's here. And I try to tell them, don't repeat what you already wrote here. If this is about coughing and covering your mouth, don't say coughing and covering your mouth when you're explaining. Try to write something else that is related to these two things. Like, what do you think about people using manners and how that relates to keeping people healthy? And that's where you kind of add your own sass, your own opinion. And with argumentative writing, you can do that. You can be persuasive, you can be sassy, you can add in a little flair with these explains. So that's something that is going to take a little while for your students to get, but with a lot of prompting and conferencing and practicing, they will get it. The other thing, the other thing that my students were doing is they were, for the explain, like for the evidence, they were just quoting the sentence. And then for the explain, they were paraphrasing the same sentence. So I said to them, that would be a great a C, that would be great for your C if you paraphrased it, but that's not an explain, because explaining means you have to actually get it from your own brain. So they were getting a little confused about that. And then I stopped and I said, you have to look at your E and ask yourself, is that from the passage or is it from my brain? So there was one here, there was a reason about being successful. And the evidence was that you would get better grades and you would be more likely to get a job. And then for the explain, you might write, one of my students wrote something like, it was pretty funny. He wrote something like, you might even get your dream job if you use manners. Who wants to hire someone that's rude? And so asking rhetorical questions or adding in, a bit of opinion, as long as you're staying on topic, you want it to come from the student's brain and not paraphrase or restate or copy the evidence. So that's how you can help them do the explain. And then at the end, they can just answer the question again with their opinion. And if they're able to, they could summarize the three reasons, but in a different way. And then they go back and summarize the reasons up here, but in a different way. And then that will give them a 2-sentence solid introduction. And then as they get higher and higher throughout the year, the idea is that then they could go in and they can make it their own. They can add synonyms, they can say it in a different way, they can, you know, add in definitive words, things like that. But I think at this stage in the game, what I've noticed is it really helps the students to give them a format to follow, give them a pattern that they can follow. Even some of mine, they did all the planner was perfect. They had all the reasons, they had all the evidence, all of this looked great on the Post-it notes. I used colored Post-it notes. And then when they got to the final copy, for some reason, they forgot to put all these pink reasons. So they started their paragraph with the blue and then they did the green. And when I conferenced with them, it was really easy to notice that when I was looking at the colors, because I said, where's your pink? You forgot to put all the sentences. Remember, you have to start the paragraph with your reason because that's kind of your main idea. Manners keep you healthy. Where's that sentence? You just went into the evidence. So the colors, I think, really help. Or I had another student that I went to conference with and I said, where's all your orange? The orange is what I use in the hands-on revising to show them to use a different color for transitions or sentence starters. So if they're going to start off with, first of all, manners keep you healthy, then they should be highlighting, first of all, orange. Or if they're going to write, the text says, that should be orange. Or if they're going to write, I know, or this means, that is orange as well. So that's a great tool to have the students actually type their final copy on the Google Doc. They could do it first in black and white, and then they can go back and you can teach them to click on the A, highlight the words, click on the A and change the font color, and then they can conference with you, because then that just makes it, I don't know, as a teacher, makes it easier for me to see what they're missing, and they could even look at each other's essay and tell each other what they're missing. So I really liked using the colors, and experiment with that and let me know if that helps your students. And then I also included a student checklist. This doesn't really talk about opinion writing, but it's just a basic checklist that goes with the rubric for STAR. And I tried to make it kid friendly, so that is included as well. And then I talked about how it can be, debate passages, it can be nonfiction, it can be fiction, just to give you some different ideas. And then this one is kind of a fill in the blank that you can customize and edit and then assign to the students. The words that I changed were argumentative and then opinion. And you're explaining whether you think blank or blank. So you can kind of fill that in. And then this is the one on fiction. And then these are all basically on debates that I think would be really fun and engaging for the students. So this one is explain whether you think children should be paid to do chores or not. You could either have the students research both sides of that. You could have them come up with evidence, or if you can find a passage on the internet or with whatever resources you have in your district, you can try to find an article that has evidence on one side and the other. Like I said, we use Storywork, so all of these included in this resource are popular debates that I've done with my students that are pretty engaging. So I think that this will give you a start on argumentative writing, and you'll see that it goes through about 10 different ones. And then this is all of my links. So I'll put these in the notes for this YouTube video, and check out this resource and let me know if the colors help you. Like I said, this includes the digital planners that are color coded. So that could be a great option for your students that need that extra support. All right, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it helped you and your students. Bye.